everyone, welcome to the first day of the SocialGov spring session. Today we have three really great speakers lined up who will be talking to us about using paid advertising campaigns. First up is Joe Galbo. Joe is the social media specialist at the U.S. Consumer Product Safety Commission. In this role, he manages all CPSC's social media platforms and content across the agency's websites. Joe is also a member of the newly formed SocialGov board, which helps facilitate knowledge sharing between federal digital media professionals. Next up, we have Matt Payne. Matt serves in Americorps' Office of External Affairs, leading national marketing initiatives aimed at making Americorps a household name. Matt has been at the agency for 6 years, co-leading a national rebrand project. Matt is a proud Southern California native, Eagle Scout, and graduate of Georgetown University, where he studied digital marketing and the humanities. And last up, we have Bronwyn Emmet. She leads the digital outreach initiatives for the National Veterans Outreach Office within the VA Office of Public and Intergovernmental Affairs. For 6 years, she was program manager of Explore VA Outreach. The program resulted in over 14 million visits to the VA website and over 2 million application starts. Today, Bronwyn continues to leverage partnerships to promote and execute social media events that focus on VA priorities. I will turn it over to Joe Galbo.
Thank you so much, Gabby.
Hey.
Hey, everyone. Thank you so much for being here and joining us this afternoon. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen. So as Gabby said, my name is Joe Galbo, and I am the social media specialist at the Consumer Product Safety Commission. Be sure to get all your questions in the chat. Each of the presenters does have a lot of slides, and we're going to try to move through them very quickly because we do want to make sure that we get to answer some questions at the end of the day. So really quickly, all opinions are my own, do not reflect the opinions of the CPSC. And if you don't know what the CPSC is, we are a federal regulatory agency, kind of like the EPA or the FDA, but for consumer products. We're pretty small. We have a budget of about $135 million. Our OCM budget, the Office of Communication, is about $4 million. $2 million of that goes to supporting outreach for our safety campaigns. And we do run a lot of safety campaigns, about 20 to 25 per year. So we are a small agency trying to do a lot of work and with a lot going on at all times. I did want to detail some of the goals we have out of the Office of Communications, and these are goals that you would find in our operating plan or our strategic plan, and especially this second set of bullets there. Two goals I want to call out. So we have one that says the first goal, increase dissemination of useful consumer product safety information, and then a little bit lower it says increase use of enhanced communication technology to advance consumer safety. And those two are very important. A lot of times when people ask me, hey, how did you get paid social media approved at your agency? What do you do to convince your leadership that it needs to get done? We have these goals there to kind of say, well, we're trying to accomplish these things, and paid social media is a way that we could do that, a very effective way that we could do that. We're going to get into that a little bit later in the presentation. Moving right along, just to give you a sense of our social media landscape, we have about 7 social media accounts across Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. At the moment, we have about 169,000 followers, which is great. We're very excited about that. Last year, we achieved 108 million impressions, 5 million engagements. So, overall, these numbers are good for us. If you're at a bigger agency, I'm sure that, you're looking at this like, wow, well, that's not very big. And yeah, that's just not our game. We are just operating a slightly smaller scale than some of the other regulatory agencies out there, but that's okay. We're very excited about how well we're doing. And really what I'm going to show you in this presentation is how paid social media enhances this reach a lot, especially into communities where, we have to get our life-saving messages delivered, the most. So why conduct a paid social media campaign? So first of all, at CPSC, we found that they are very cost effective. Running a paid campaign, again, gets you into communities that you otherwise might not have an avenue into. And also what comes out of those campaigns is there's a very robust amount of metrics that help you track and measure performance. For many years, CPSC was just creating printed publications, stuff that they would hand out to people at trade shows or conferences. And, printed pieces are great in some ways, but in other ways, they just end up in a landfill. That's not the case with paid social media. At the end of a campaign, you're getting back a ton of metrics that you can use to help you make business decisions and, achieve your mission goals. Through contractor support, even small public affairs teams can run really great and professional social media campaigns. Many other government agencies are running social media campaigns at this point. So, if you have leadership or you have legal folks who have a lot of concerns about it, there's a lot of people already doing this. And again, a lot of people have found it very effective. And then finally, like I said, one of the most compelling reasons to do these types of campaigns is the type of marketing tools and marketing options that become available to you through paid social media advertising, where, again, your message is getting in front of maybe the exact person who you want to have it seen, who you want to see it. Apologies. So how to conduct paid social media campaigns. Just a few steps here, going to go through them really quickly. So number one, it's always good to have goals. Number two, you definitely should have a budget and a contractor. Three, you should have measurements. And then four, believe in yourself. And you should always believe in yourself, but especially when you're trying to convince your agency to let you do paid digital advertising or paid social media. So having goals, what do I mean by that? Basically, I've come up with a couple of thought questions that I use to help me kind of frame my thinking around how we create goals at CPSC for our paid social media campaigns. And, good goals can be the difference between your leadership saying, hey, we definitely want to do this, or I don't know, this seems kind of flimsy. So spending a lot of time and really thinking through your goals is definitely a good idea. So just some goals here that, I have as examples. Who are the most specific members of the public we would like to reach? What services do we want to let those people know about? And then what does success look like once we've reached those people, which you definitely will do through paid social media? And then also, how can paid social media advertising help solve communication problems for my leadership? And maybe that should be the first one. I know for me, anytime I'm trying to get my leadership to do anything, I frame it in a way that's kind of like, hey, well, here's how this is going to help you, my fearless leader, accomplish what you want to accomplish today. So that's always a good one to think through as well. What that looks like for us in the real world, and I'm going to use our portable generator safety messaging as an example here, is, for our portable generator safety campaign, where we're trying to educate people about carbon monoxide and the dangers of, running a portable generator in your home. Again, who are we trying to reach? We're trying to reach people who own portable generators and live in states affected by hurricanes. We're trying to educate them about the dangers of carbon monoxide poisoning, because carbon monoxide can kill within minutes. Success for us is a hurricane goes through a region and there are no carbon monoxide related deaths in that region. You can't really put that in a contract. You can't hold a contractor beholden to that. So the way we kind of articulate it in our contract is we're going to achieve 200,000 engagements, per hurricane season. And then, finally, reducing portable generator deaths is obviously a major priority for CPSC's leadership. So we are solving problems there as well. This is just kind of a general overview of what the portable generator safety campaign looked like. I'm going to get into the details of how we created this in a few seconds. But overall last year, we spent $34,000 on portable generator safety messaging. That was not our original intention. The original intention was to spend only $12,000. But what we found was that the campaign was going so well and we were reaching so many people, we put more money into the campaign to kind of keep it going. And also last year, hurricane season was crazy. It was the most hurricanes I think we've ever seen, in the US. So really wild. So 8.5 million impressions, again, very good for us. 1.1 million engagements, very good for us. And this is in states that were getting hit by hurricanes last year, where, again, people are buying portable generators, or, they forgot to change the battery in their carbon monoxide alarm, or they just don't realize that you're supposed to put the portable generator 20 feet away from your home. So, a lot of important messaging to get to people in very specific areas, which is where social media can be a huge, huge help. So having a budget and a contractor, excuse me, you don't need a huge budget. $34,000 might sound like a lot to some of you, but when we first started experimenting with paid social media, we were spending $2,500 just on Facebook, just to promote a couple PSAs. And that was actually really great. 2 PSA videos that we had that to that point had only achieved about 10,000 views. All of a sudden we're getting 300,000 views a piece, which is really, really awesome. You could boost posts on Facebook for as little as $50 to $100. And if you're an agency where people are a little timid about this idea of, buying social media advertising, you can start small. You can say, hey, let's do a couple of small experiments to see how it goes. And, you're more than likely to produce results that get people very, very excited. So highly recommend, don't be afraid. Don't feel like you need a huge budget. You could totally do this with just a little bit of money to start. And excuse me, last year, we did invest about $200,000 in social media across all our campaigns, or across 10 campaigns, excuse me. And that was the most money we had ever invested. And it went so well that we do plan to invest a similar amount this year and in FY22. And I'm happy to answer any questions about that. So again, now I know some people might be thinking, okay, but do I really need a big budget? Do I really need a contractor? I'm smart. Can I just do this with a credit card and figure it out myself? And you are very smart, and I know you're very smart, but I really, really recommend that you have a contractor work with you to do paid social media buys. I would say 99% of the agencies I've spoken to who are doing this are doing it through a paid contractor. They are not trying to do it through credit card purchases. And that is because a lot of us have found that the only way to do this and remain compliant with all government regulations is to do it through a paid contractor. And certainly happy to talk more about that in a Q&A session. So just some other benefits to working with contractors, working with a contractor, they handle the tough stuff, and really you get to focus on, great campaign creative, making sure you're monitoring things well, and, finally, that you're achieving your mission goals. Contractors also enable you to work campaigns across multiple social media platforms. Every social media platform has a different type of advertising platform that works a little differently. So you working with a contractor gives you a way to have like a one-stop shop to kind of manage things across social media sites. And then finally, you might already have a contract at your agency that could have social media advertising modified into it. So again, another good reason to work with a contractor. You might already have someone out there who does that type of service and you just don't know it yet. What does contract language look like for a paid social media campaign? This is what we're using. It's okay. Statement of works vary across agencies, right? And you could certainly probably write a 5-page statement of work to run a paid social media campaign. For our procurement office, this language was very effective. And I'm just going to give you a high-level overview here. In paragraph 1, we're detailing what platforms we want to be on, how long the campaign is going to run. Paragraph 2 kind of hashes out, hey, here's who's doing what. Here's how the contractor has to interface with us. Here's what the Corps is going to have to approve. And then paragraph 3 is just detailing how we're going to measure success, which again, in a contract for us, we just kind of measure it by how many engagements we're going to achieve. So, again, this language is okay. If you have better language, I would love to see it. Please send it to me. I'm always trying to make our statement of work language better. So certainly happy to collaborate on this, after this meeting today. Just want to show everyone kind of what a bare bones social media plan could look like. So this is a couple screenshots from a much longer social media plan, but basically what your contractor should provide is something that says, hey, here's how much we're going to spend. Here's how much we're going to spend on English ads, on Spanish ads. Here's the timeline, here's the location, here's the age range. And then that behaviors bullet at the bottom there, that's where you can kind of really dive into, okay, who are we trying to reach and what things are people doing what are the things that people are interested in rather, that we might be able to leverage to get this important messaging in front of them. And then of course, any good paid social campaign plan will have the creative in there for you to review. Again, when you're working with a contractor, as I'm sure most of you know, the government retains a lot of control, because whatever you write into that contract, whenever you say, hey, the Corps has to approve this, it means nothing happens until the Corps does. So again, just want to kind of help you have to help your leadership demystify this a little bit. So, showing them documents like this can be a great idea, and reinforcing, hey, listen, we're in control at all times can also be a really powerful way to help them understand, hey, it's okay. It's okay to do some paid social media advertising. Just a quick example of what a year-long social media campaign might look like. Again, every different color of a box here, this is a campaign we're running. I think there are 10 there. So, like I was saying, I think we did 10 campaigns last year. And this is just kind of like a cheat sheet for me to kind of look at and make sure, hey, we're not, running any trains into each other, or I got to make sure this creative is approved, at this time of year and that creative approved next month. So, again, happy to dive into this a little bit further, but just kind of wanted to show it to you as an example of, the power that you could have when you do decide, hey, we're going to do some paid social media. And then finally, measuring things. So measuring is incredibly important. And, like I was saying, paid social media campaigns produce tons and tons of metrics for you to dive into. And it can be very easy to pay attention to the wrong data. And I'm sure you have all had that experience where you're paying a lot of attention to a data set, and then all of a sudden you realize, man, I don't know if this is actually helping us achieve any of our goals, or if it just is really big numbers. So, paid social media has that same challenge. But the nice thing is you actually have options and a lot of data to, kind of review and sift through. And you can kind of test things and experiment and figure out, hey, maybe we were looking at impressions, but impressions are not the best thing we should be looking at, to measure our effectiveness. Maybe we should be looking at engagement. For us at CPSC, where everything is about awareness, impressions and engagement, even though they are very basic metrics, suit us just fine because it means that people are seeing the information. And we also use our paid social ads to kind of run graphics that you maybe, wouldn't normally see from us. If anyone's looked at our organic social media strategy, you'll see it's very fun. It's very safety meme heavy. That's kind of what we've become known for on social media. But we use our paid ads to actually run a lot more serious imagery as well, because we recognize that you can't just be doing safety memes all the time, especially for the more serious topics. It may be appropriate to run serious messaging, especially when someone's in a life-threatening situation like a hurricane. They don't really want a talking, bottle of cleaning product when the hurricane is coming. They would much rather look at a serious graphic that is providing them serious information. And we're able to do both of those things through paid social media, which is really great. So just a real quick look here. This is a screenshot from Facebook's advertising platform. This is a Facebook ad we ran. Babies don't come with shells. You have to keep them safe. And I just kind of wanted to give you a sense again of the types of metrics you'll get a chance to look at. So here, if you look closely at that slide, you'll see I'm seeing how much money we've spent. I'm seeing how many people we've reached according to Facebook, and the number of engagements, and then how it performed over time, right? So this ad did pretty okay. Again, I usually like to see a little bit more engagement when we run one of these more fun ads, but this was also an experiment for us because we've never run a paid ad with this many images on it before. Typically our meme images have just one picture, and we actually put a second picture on here because we're working with some researchers from Syracuse University who said that people remember things better when there's a positive image, not just a negative image. So we're testing that out. So that's why that looks like that. So finally, coming up on the end here, again, if you remember from earlier, organic social media reach last year, 108 million impressions, 5 million engagements. And as great as that was, we recognize that was from anyone living anywhere in the world. They could be doing anything at any time. Maybe they speak English, maybe they don't, maybe they care about product safety, or maybe they were just passing through. Big organic social numbers are great. And I'm a big proponent of having a great organic social media plan, but paid social media is where the game really begins for me. Again, our paid social media reach last year, 67 million impressions, 6.5 million engagements. And who were those people? They were American citizens, first of all, and then they were also people living, in areas where maybe there was severe weather. They were certainly parents of young children in at-risk communities. They were people who owned pools or furniture, or, again, any number of consumer products that we regulate. So through our paid social media, we are reaching a much more focused audience, an audience that needs our life-saving messages, an audience that, again, isn't just passively, finding their way to our social media accounts, but instead we are coming into their news feeds and saying, hey, this is very important for your family. Please take a minute to look at it. So that is it. Lastly, I'm sorry, believe in yourself. So, again, I know it can be hard when you're trying to convince your leadership to do something new. Certainly here to talk afterwards to help anyone on strategies, on, ways we kind of made this happen at CPSC. But keep it up. Again, paid social media is a critical way to reach people, and ultimately it results in better services for the public. So again, can't sing the praises of it enough, and happy to answer any questions afterwards. At this point, I'm going to stop sharing my screen, and I'm going to turn things over to Matt, who is going to dive into his presentation. Matt, take it away.
Awesome. Thanks, Joe. Fabulous presentation, a ton of information for folks. Give me one sec. All right. Joe, can you see my screen okay?
You can see it.
Fabulous. All right, apologies for the noisy background. I'm in Manhattan, and it is a very, very noisy city. But as Joe said, I'm Matt Payne. I'm the marketing manager at Americorps. All opinions are my own. The stuff that I'm about to walk through with you, we have a little bit of a larger advertising spend here at Americorps than Joe's work, but hopefully there's still some helpful frameworks and lessons learned that you can take from us. So before we get started, I'll just tell you what Americorps is. It's the only federal agency tasked with elevating national service and volunteerism in America. It's a really awesome mission. National service is something that's really just an opportunity to serve your country, similar to the military or the Peace Corps, but instead of going abroad to do that, you serve here domestically in the States and work with a whole host of nonprofits for about a year in length. I had the opportunity to do Americorps in the American South and got to build homes with Habitat for Humanity, do disaster response, build trails in national parks, a really great domestic program that a lot of people don't know about, and that's something that we're looking to change. So why we do advertising as an agency, every year we enroll more than 270,000 individuals of all ages and backgrounds into our programs. And they go out and into communities and make a real impact. getting somebody to sign up for 6 months or a year of service, that's a pretty big life decision. It's a little bit of more of a commitment than just buying a product like in typical advertising. So really puts the pressure on us to make sure that we're reaching people and really educating them and making the sell and the commitment. Another reason we use social media advertising at Americorps is to really keep up in the digital world. This is a really helpful tool that was pretty sobering for me as a marketer. It's Google Trends. I'm sure some of you are familiar with this, but it measures how often people are Googling your organization or a product or service that you offer. And this, I measured how many times people are Googling Americorps, which is a pretty good indicator of like how relevant you are in a digital world, and used some of our sort of friendly competitors, if you will, like Peace Corps and City Year to see the trend line. And from 2004 till last year, we saw a really consistent decline in sort of interest and popularity of our programs. So that sort of wake up call of we have to do more to speed up the pace of government to keep up with digital marketing trends. And then another Americorps program that has a pretty popular brand, City Year, actually bucked the trend, which was kind of following economic trends. When the economy is doing better, people don't serve as much, they're finding jobs or do these types of volunteer programs. But City Year was bucking this trend. And to me, as I did research into their organization, we saw, they're really investing in their digital strategy, in their marketing, in their brand, doing influencer marketing, and that stuff really pays off. So this is a helpful tool, again, for selling to leadership the importance of staying relevant, especially when your mission is so critical. So we use marketing and social media advertising also to reach some of really high awareness goals that we've set for ourselves. We did some research in the market and found that awareness of Americorps is about 50%, whereas organizations like Peace Corps and Habitat for Humanity enjoyed like 80%, 90% name ID. So we want that to grow to 75%. And when you sort of quiz people on what is Americorps, what does it do, only 34% could accurately identify that. So we want to grow that to 55%. So those are sort of our big picture goals that drive us in our marketing. Another reason we're using social is you're reaching people where they are. This is a pretty recent analysis of average time spent on social media platforms per day. Facebook, an average of 35 minutes, TikTok, an average of 33 minutes, Twitter, 33, Instagram, 30, Snapchat, 28. I know as government agencies, we can't use TikTok, but people are on Facebook, people are on Instagram, scrolling all day. And so it's important that, as Joe mentioned, we sort of think beyond the days of sitting at a conference handing out a flyer, right? You have to reach people where they are. Another way that we sort of find value in the chaos, or express to our leadership the value of social media advertising in the chaos, and there's so many different platforms and they're constantly changing, is we help people understand that the algorithms that these companies are developing for their platform continue to deprioritize that organic reach. They're showing that non-paid content less and less. It seems like every time there's an update, again, it's all in favor of boosting those ad dollars and their business model. So if we really want to be seen, you have to pay to play. It allows us to boost awareness of those key services and resources. Social media advertising might not be appropriate for every government agency, especially if there's not sort of a big public resource or something that you really need to push out. But for those of us that do have missions that we need to meet that really require the public know about what you're doing, I think social media advertising is a really critical way to do it. And as Joe mentioned, the biggest value is predictability and measurable results. I mean, digital marketing has so many different indicators that you can use to track your return on investment, and benchmarks that are set up by industry, so you can measure the success of your campaign against other campaigns and other industries where they sort of typically fall. And to Joe's point as well, this is really where an agency partner can provide a lot of useful insights. They're doing this all day, buying social media ads and media space, so they can provide a lot of helpful tools and knowledge there. So I wanted to share a case study from one of our first campaigns that we did paid advertising on social media at the agency. It was for a program we have called Americorps Vista. And this was a few years back. And one of the things that we found using our Google Analytics, which measures our website traffic, was the year that we did the paid campaign. We had 80,000 sort of organic sessions of folks that are already going to come to your website, whether they're searching for you on Google or they saw you through other means and they're coming to you for free, right? Or through other methods. But we can actually track and delineate that campaign traffic, those referrals from social media platforms or other digital media strategies using what's called UTM tracking. If you're not familiar, I highly recommend you spend some time Googling it. That allows us to sort of separate campaign traffic. And we found we had an additional 134,500 sessions on our website due to our campaign. So, more than doubled the amount of folks coming to our site. So that's really, really meaningful for us. And when you compare that to the year prior, when we didn't run any social media advertising, only 91,000 total came in the same 2-month period. So again, powerful to drive those eyes, drive awareness and traffic. And it's more than just who comes to your site, right? We want to think about conversions, who ultimately applies. Do these types of campaigns lead to more applications? And this year, 2017, we did see a bump in what was sort of declining applications. We saw like a 10,000 application submission jump, which is really great. So that's sort of what we've done in the past. I want to walk you through what we're doing today. And it's in the context of like a larger advertising campaign and strategy that we've developed with our communications agency, GMMB. They are based out of Georgetown and do a lot of cause marketing, but they've been a great partner for us. And it's one of the first times that we're really coming together as an agency, enforcing all of our disparate programs with unique missions and models to really communicate one story for our organization. This is another place like government infamously fails a lot of times, is we care so much about the uniqueness of all these different things and distinguishing technicalities across different programs, but for the public, it just doesn't resonate, right? You have less and less time as attention spans shrink to get your message across. So really, forcing folks to come together and agree on one approach to go out to the world and communicate. So that's kind of the high level of the campaign. It's a $2 million paid advertising campaign with a whole host of different components, only one of which is paid social advertising, but this is funded by our programs, some of which have sort of statute language that requires certain money be spent for advertising and awareness. I know that really helps when there's a line item that's often not a luxury that a lot of agencies have. It doesn't exist across our agency, but some programs specifically have awareness dollars set up. These campaigns have the power to really extend beyond what you pay for. We at Americorps can accept donated advertising space through public service announcements, and we're really well positioned to be a PSA. So we estimate that we're going to get at least $16 million in donated ad space. So it's kind of like that initial investment in the paid space allows you to expand the reach even more. And where we may be able to get like a media vendor like Comcast to run our PSAs, a lot of these big digital advertising companies on social like Facebook, Instagram, it's a lot harder to negotiate those types of deals. And we haven't had any real success like getting that sort of ad space for free. So that's kind of why we make that investment. The campaign is really multi-pronged in its targeting. You can't sort of just say, we want to reach everybody. You have to dissect your different audiences and understand where to reach different groups and what messages appeal to them. So while it's one story, we sort of cater our ads to different people. So if, you know, the message that resonates with a kid about to graduate college who may want to take a gap year before a career versus a kid that dropped out of high school, and Americorps is an opportunity, you know, as a pathway to a career, or somebody that just retired and wants to do something meaningful and use their experience to give back to their community, right? Those are very different experiences. So it's an important job of marketers to find that targeting. Again, these communications agencies can be great partners in understanding your target audiences. We have an increased emphasis on diversity, equity, and inclusion. Of course, this year, if there's anything we've taken away from the past year, and we've asked our agency to focus on partnering with different media companies that we typically haven't in the past, which I'll show you some of those in just a second. And then last, really building a campaign for amplification so that all of your different stakeholders, your staff, if you have I mean, we have an alumni base, those that have served in our programs, but just supporters of your organization, they can really pick up the campaign beyond that paid component and run with it. So at a high level, this is what's built in. Like I mentioned, research is really important for us, starting with, you know, what are those motivations in the market? How is, for example, we developed a survey that we got approval on through OMB that asks like how COVID has changed maybe some motivations to volunteer or serve your country. You know, we know a lot of people have had time to reflect on, you know, what are you doing in life? What's your next steps? And so that provided some really meaningful insights for us to inform our campaign. PSAs, media partnerships, we're doing some paid email marketing to colleges, press, and then paid social advertising and toolkits. I really like this framework. Again, this is for a really big campaign, but even for little campaigns, the goal, strategy, objectives, tactics, really forcing yourself to, as Joe thoughtfully outlined, really think through your goals. You know, what are your strategies and objectives, and what are the tactics you're going to do to make that happen? Hopefully folks find that useful. So this campaign that we're running this year will be across a variety of media partners. Facebook and Instagram have been really successful for us. Allows us to do a lot of different targeting and delivers a really effective ROI. YouTube, which as we know is more people are recognizing as a social media platform. As social becomes so video heavy, it's really critical for those of you doing these types of campaigns that you're investing in video and developing content, because that's, you know, that's what works the best in these ads are short videos. In the past, we would develop like 90-second, 2-minute videos that really tells a long story, and, you know, educating our people that no, we have to produce something that's 30 seconds and then cut that down into 6 seconds, 15 seconds. Those short snippets, you know, really do the job of raising awareness. And that's just what the metrics are telling us. We have some placements on Spotify, Hulu, NPR, and these diversity recruitment partners, H-Code, the largest Hispanic media organization, even outpacing Univision, Radio One, and Urban One, reaching Black America. And the Motherhood is a pilot we're running this year, which is a influencer agency that works through a lot of the terms with social media influencers. So this is actually how I met Joe, and I got roped into this presentation. Was we were asking about his agency's experience using influencers. I know more people are thinking about that because they're so effective. But our communications agency is subcontracting through the Motherhood, which allows us to kind of avoid a lot of those risks and really have a clear outline of expectations for those influencers, proper vetting, things like that. So that's something we're trying out. I wanted to show you what the kind of creative process looks like. So this was our 3 creative concepts that our agency delivered, you know, with different approaches. Americorps values, Americorps, what's at your core, kind of takes that more emotional and personal tone, trying to think about where people are kind of at in the moment. more thoughtful and inspiring, like Americorps has such an effect and makes change happen in communities, and then a more direct, actionable get things done concept. We ultimately are running with this what's at your core concept, and we're really excited to highlight our people that have done Americorps and how they put their values into action, and try to get more people to sort of think about that question. We don't have metrics, obviously, because this campaign hasn't finished running, but and we'll be launching. But last year we did a pretty comprehensive campaign, and I wanted to just show you what those metrics you get back might look like. We had 14.8 million video views, over 275,000 clicks to our website, and over 78 million impressions. So again, we're talking real, predictable, measurable results on awareness and traffic. So that's just really helpful for us to meet our goals. It doesn't always go according to plan. That's one of the risks with these more thought out campaigns that you spend time with. Sometimes the whole world changes. We were launching this campaign last year right as COVID hit. So as you can imagine, you can't show people out, volunteering side by side. You have to, we had to buy stock footage to get folks masked up, and then the death of George Floyd happened, shortly thereafter. You have to change your tone. You have to, meet the moment on social media, or it can all backfire on you. So that's just some sort of precaution to be aware of. That you likely change course at some point. There's a great tool. There's just a couple quick tools I'll run through and wrap up here that I wanted to point out. Social Press Kit is a great site that we found that allows you to do toolkits for your trusted communicators and your stakeholders, that allows them to do like one-click sharing of your campaign. So this is a good example of sort of, yes, paid advertising, and also organic, and you can use that paid campaign to really engage all of your folks for free. For those kind of on the smaller campaign side who don't have communication staff on your team or design staff, when we started out small, using resources like Canva and the Noun Project can be really easy ways to create fast social media ads. And then just wrapping up here, before I pass it to my awesome colleague Bronwyn, closing thoughts are, it's really important to realize that marketing is experimentation. This can be a hard concept in government, right? We want predictability, but really the only thing that's consistent in the marketing world is change. These platforms are constantly changing. There will be something new tomorrow, and so it's really important that we continue to fight the fight to stay relevant and bring government up to speed to meet our missions. There's even talks about de-marketing, where the future of marketing might be marketing to people to not do things, right? To not consume in ways that protect the environment, things like that. So again, constantly evolving. And then the industry is changing a lot in regards to privacy. The entire digital advertising world is built on tracking, right? And I want to know as much information about a person so I can hyper target them. It's kind of backfiring, right? It's creepy that everyone's following us around and serving us all these ads that it's like, I just had a conversation with somebody about, and I'm freaked out by that. So again, as a government agency who cares a lot about privacy, it's keeping that at the forefront and trying to get ahead of that because it'll continue to be more and more important. But yep, just that's all I had for you. And we can save questions to the end, but please stay in touch and follow us at Americorps. And I will pass it over to Bronwyn.
Hi there, thanks, Matt. If you take down yours, I'll share my screen. So my name is Bronwyn Emmet, and I work for Department of Veterans Affairs. And I'm going to talk to you about the digital outreach campaign that we were doing for a number of years. I work for the Office of Public Affairs for the National Veterans Outreach Office. So what we're trying to do, what our goal is to increase awareness among veterans and family members and stakeholders of VA benefits and services, and to educate veterans and encourage them to apply. So there's actually a law that requires VA to do this. And that's what you see there. In 2010, there was a census done, and there was a survey of veterans that indicated that more than 60% of veterans didn't understand the benefits and services that VA provided. So we're trying to reach everyone. We're trying to get the benefits to anyone who qualifies. So we had a big job to do there. So Explore VA, the campaign was created to meet that need. So this is not just an advertising campaign, it was a communications and outreach campaign, a blended campaign. Not everybody gets their information in one way. You know, people prefer to get their information in many different ways. So you can see all the different types of ways that we reached out to veterans through the campaign. The idea was, we talk about goals and objectives. The goal is to reach veterans and family members, educate them and encourage them to apply for VA benefits. The way we were going to do that was this integrated campaign, the idea that each part of the campaign works together and the information, the bulk of the information lies on a landing page. So we were trying to drive conversions, in other words, get people to click and go to the site and apply, get email subscriptions so we could communicate back to people about benefits and to spur engagement. So the first thing I think needs to be done in any campaign is to really know your audience and to research, you know, what's been done before and what still needs to be done, figure out where the gaps are. So we did that. We started out with a research project to figure out what the web properties are now, what was out there, what was still needed, you know, and to really figure out what the veteran audience, what we should start out doing to reach the veteran audience. Also, this campaign was a campaign of continuous testing. So you come up with an idea for a campaign and you're not always right. So you have to start with something. So you take your research, you start with a plan, but then you test and make sure that, you know, you're doing the right things to get those conversions, get the audience in and do the desired action, which was apply, and figure out how you can make your campaign more effective. So we were directing veterans to our website, specifically to the microsite Explore VA, and it was designed for ease of use and really to be very clear to veterans that didn't know about benefits. We collected metrics on a monthly basis from all parts of the campaign, not only the advertising, but the emails, the web, different parts of the website. In the end, we ended up with 14 unique visitors to the site and over 2 million applies. We were always looking at return of investment, so we had it down to $2.50 per veteran who applied. So take the total budget divided by the number of veterans who started an application, and we were paying $2.50 a veteran. So we did lots of different advertising. We kicked this off with television advertising, keyword search advertising, social media advertising, article placement, ads in convention booklets, but most of it was digital. We did remarketing where, you know, you click on something, maybe you're looking for shoes, and then those shoes follow you through the universe of the internet. And we had VA benefits following the veterans around. So in the end, we found that Google keyword advertising was the most cost effective. And paid social media didn't work for our audience so much. We did get a backlash. People didn't like seeing VA's advertisements coming up in their feed. So that didn't end up being what worked for us. And if we hadn't have tested, we wouldn't have known. So I'm just going to show you a few of the features that we had. as I said, when you have a campaign, it's really important to have a site where you can measure whether your campaign is effective. So this is how the microsite landing site was structured. So it was built with search engine optimization in mind. So we were sending people to sub pages, one for each benefit, as well as the main page. And we could measure who wanted what benefit. We could segment the audience. We could get them to sign up for emails and indicate their area of interest. And in that way, we could then target them for future communications. We also had testimonial, or excuse me, we had overview videos. They were kind of stick figure videos. Not everybody wants to read a website. So if you play one of these, in 90 seconds, you'll get the top line messages of each benefit. We could also share these on social media. We could put them in ads. And so that was a good way of reaching a lot of people. Also, we found that veterans don't really trust the government as much as they trust other veterans. So testimonial videos where people were talking about their experience very honestly turned out to be useful for us. And we also used these photos. We did a photo shoot at the same time as the video shoot and used the photos with quotes in all of our materials. And again, the reason we found out that, you know, what was this effective, because we were constantly testing, continually testing who was clicking on what. And, you know, do people share these on social media, or did they go back to the website? Do they prefer the testimonials or the overview videos? You know, how much time do they stay on the web page? Where do they look? We did mouse tracking, where you follow someone's eye. People usually move the mouse, and that's where their eye is pointed on a website. So we could see where people were looking the most, and then we could try A/B testing, where we would put the apply site on, you know, the click link to apply for benefits on that part of the website, and, you know, serve that to half the audience, and then the other audience got the old version, and we would see what was most effective. So that's a lot of things that we did. We had an outreach and social sharing portal where people who maybe were not familiar with how to share things on social media, they could just hover over a graphic and click post, tweet, or pin, and share it to their site and customize the message when they did that. And we had a toolkit. So all of our advertisements were driving back to the site. All of our materials were driving back to our site. All the emails also driving back to the site. The other thing we found really effective were digital events. So I know you guys thought I was going to talk about social media advertising, but hey, we found that different people like different things. And this was very effective to have digital events. And another reason why it was effective for us was we would send out emails to our audience. We actually built an audience of 1.4 million, and we would send out invitations, and they would have to come back to our registration site to apply. And when they got to the registration site, they would hit register, and then guess what? They would have to put their email in. So if somebody got an email or passed to a friend, we would have the new person's email. If they saw a social media post promoting this event, they came to the site, we would have their email. And there was also a checkbox system, which they would elect whether they wanted information on different benefits. So then we would have more information about them. So we had an email campaign. We built this email campaign from people coming to the website and putting their email into the capture tool. And it was very, very effective. We had a good open rate. We also sent out social media calendars every month. And we found that it was very effective to work with partners on getting this information out. Here's an example of a social media calendar that we sent out to promote an event. We would get up to 100 different organizations sharing our content, and some of them were quite large as far as their Facebook audiences. This is some evergreen posts that we sent out to our partners. So here are some numbers on our digital events. We did a lot of them, 35 between 2014 to 2019. And when we did them, we marketed them, you know, and using all of the different elements of the campaign. And we found that once we did these, we would do them on the partner pages, and then all the other partners would want to actually come do an event with us, and they would also want to promote other people's events. So we built the audience from 1.1 million users to 5.6. That's the potential reach of all the followers of our partners. And here's some metrics on some of the events we did. I'm just going to move really quickly through this. Here are some more recent events. The Mission Act event was actually in partnership with 3 different organizations, and we got 24,000 folks watching the video and 1,400 comments. So during the time that this campaign was going, we did reach a lot of people through social media, but we didn't reach them through social media advertising. We met and we got them in by reaching out to them with posts and partnership and event promotions and things like that. And every month we would look at a dashboard. These dashboards were really good to share with leadership. They would identify where the traffic was coming from, what was advertising, what was organic, what was email. And every month we would have highlights and insights, and there would be, I required my contractor to put together recommendations to increase the effectiveness of the campaign. So just to leave you with this is kind of what I thought of as the most important steps when you're doing a campaign. You determine the objective or the goal, do audience research, develop a plan to meet that objective. And at that point, you develop the contract if you're doing this by a contractor. Come up with KPIs, key performance indicators that you're going to measure. And you can add more, but you need to start with something and just measure. You want to collect that data regularly. You want to try different testing, try different things, collect analytics. If you change how you're advertising, you want to make sure you capture that data, and always optimize and adjust the plan to increase effectiveness. And also, just I didn't talk about how we did this. We did do this on a contract. Written into the contract were all of these things. So you don't know whether the contractor is going to be phenomenal or they're just going to be good. And you want to be able to define these things in your deliverables and make sure that you're going to get the contractor to do things like deliver the data every month and deliver recommendations for increasing effectiveness. So that's all I have. And so I'm going to turn things back to Joe.
Great. Thank you so much, Bronwyn. That was awesome. Really appreciate all the insights you shared. We do have a few minutes left, so we're going to get to some questions. Really quickly, one question I saw was someone asked how big the social media teams were at each of our agencies. For my social media team, it's just me. It's a team of 1. I also am the core on our PR agency contract, so I do oversee all of our paid social advertising as well. I know another question we just got was Miranda was asking if we use pre-existing lists of people to, I guess, target our social media advertising. At CPSC, we do not, but I don't think anyone at our agency would be opposed to that idea. So Miranda, certainly happy to talk offline about, what some of your challenges there are, or what the concerns are about using pre-existing lists of, people to reach to. And then, excuse me, lastly, I'll just try to get this one really quickly. Influencer marketing. So we did use influencers at CPSC last year. It was fairly successful, and again, we did it all through a contractor. And our contractor actually subcontracted, and I'm sure at that point, the government is completely hands off. We don't get involved in subcontracting, but that's how we were able to make it happen at CPSC. So Matt, I'll turn to you next. Those 3 questions. Do you guys use pre-existing lists of people for your paid social ads? How big is your social team? And then, influencers, if you just want to touch on what you all are thinking over there at Americorps.
We do not do lists for social media advertising. We do work with, when we're reaching college students, we work with a subcontractor called Refuel that connects us to lists of college students. Like, they are a marketing agency that partners with colleges. So that allows us to get a ton of reach in email marketing, but no, not in social. We're also a social media team. of one in our office and a marketing team of one. And I also manage the communications contract for us. So small but mighty always in the government. And remind me your last question, Joe.
Sure. So influencers, what are you all thinking with influencers?
Yeah, taking the lead from you all. It's something that we're just exploring and trying to see if we can engage Americorps alums. We have about a million Americorps alumni, so there's tons of folks, likely some influencers in there. So working to partner with folks that are connected to the work that we do, so it comes across as really authentic content, and working through that subcontract, the motherhood, to pilot that this year.
Great. Yeah. So Bronwyn, similar questions. How big's the social team, and are you all using any pre-existing lists, and then any influencer work at VA?
Well, I don't actually work in the social media team. I work in the outreach team, but we have a digital media engagement group, and there are a number of people over there, and they deal with social media, but they also deal with the blog and videos and that sort of thing. I would think there were like 3 or 4 core people who do social media, but they also do other things. In addition to that, because VA is such a huge agency, we also have multiple pages. So like the GI Bill has a page, Veterans Health has a page, the Cemetery Administration has a page. So those organizations have a couple people on each of those, and 2-3 people on each of those pages as well. As far as paid list, or as far as pre put together lists, my team worked to build our outreach list, and then we sent posts to all of those partners. So, and then we reminded them and asked them, did you post it? You know, so that's how we did things. We did try, like I said, tried paid social media, but it did not resonate with the veterans. It wasn't the way to go in our case. And what was the last question?
Sure. Do you know if you guys are exploring influencers at all at VA?
Well, always. We work with different influencers for different things. So I work, when I put on a social media event, I'll work with someone who's well respected within the veteran community. We haven't gone out for social media events and done celebrities very much, but we certainly do that for other things like PSAs and other sorts of events like concerts and things like that. Oftentimes we get people contacting us wanting to donate their time or their face or whatever it is to help veterans get benefits, and that's very effective as well.
That's great. Thanks, Bronwyn. We had a question from someone at the State Department, and I have to admit, I'm embarrassed to say I don't even know what this is. NDAA 889. Either Bronwyn or Matt, have you ever heard of that, or why it might be causing the State Department some headaches?
Yeah, I believe it's a national security provision that has to do with certain media companies owned by sort of foreign adversaries or controversial sort of cyber warfare type stuff happening. So I know that's one of the reasons why TikTok is banned for our agency, and I believe across the government, on government phones, and we can't engage them or own any platforms. I know that it doesn't apply to Facebook and Instagram, but I'll pass it over to Bronwyn.
Yeah, we primarily, our social media properties are Flickr, Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. So we wouldn't run into that.
Gotcha. Thank you. All right. So some other questions I saw. Matt, maybe this is a good one for you. How are you all planning to adjust for algorithm changes, looking forward as things kind of shift in the digital marketing space? What types of ways are you guys preparing for that?
Yeah, absolutely. I think it sort of raises the responsibility on us to keep educating our different programs and leadership about the importance of paid outreach to reach folks. So sort of that trade-off of we're not going to be able to as effectively reach people unless we commit dollars and strategies to that. So that's certainly one way. and yeah, constantly doing as much research on our own to keep up. It's been really interesting. I think there was just a release this week from Apple, and Facebook are sort of in a war on. I think that iOS is going to like give people the option to tell Facebook to stop tracking you across the different apps that you use, and so again, when you take a privacy and permission first sort of mentality, I think it's going to be some healthy growing pains for the advertising industry. Just because you can do something doesn't mean you should do something as a marketer. I think we've kind of swung too far and like getting really excited about new technology. So yeah, I think just being really apprised at what's happening in the industry at large and providing recommendations for your leadership to adjust. But it's still sort of, it's all changing underneath our feet.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'll tell you, Matt, we're finding the same thing over here at CPSC. The conversations I'm having now with our contractors, that's exactly how we feel. You know, it's still a lot of uncertainty. So it is just kind of, you know, brainstorming and, you know, trying to project, hey, how do we address, you know, this change, that change? But yeah, definitely an interesting time to be doing this type of work. Question for both of you, how important is LinkedIn to your current strategies? CPSC is not on LinkedIn at the moment, but I have to say it's near the top of my list of platforms to join in the very near future.
We do have a LinkedIn site. We have components of VA deal with jobs. VHA, the Veterans Health Administration, hires a lot. So, but also we have employment benefits and job benefits and internship benefits. So we do have a LinkedIn site, and I've got to tell you that they came and briefed us on what they can do now, and I was very impressed. So I think if you're looking to do something around employment, that's really a good way to go.
Yeah, I'd also add our initial experience with LinkedIn was that it was a little highway robbery on the ad dollars, but we have seen a lot of evolution in of the platform becoming more social media focused. I know certainly I and my friends, I see a lot more people engaging on LinkedIn in more of a social media kind of way than was in the past, and their advertising offerings are better. So I think it's something that's worth another look, and it's one of those underrated platforms when it comes to sort of the eyeballs you can get on your content.
Awesome. Thank you, Matt. So last question, and I do want to thank everyone for hanging out with us here this afternoon. Thank both the presenters, and of course, thank Digitalgov and SocialGov. So last question actually for Matt. Matt, how did you get free ad time? That was a question that came up, and I think a lot of people would like to know that, actually, myself included.
Yeah, absolutely. I know, Joe, we talked about this. Americorps has a sort of unique provision where we can accept donations as an agency. We were set up in that way. I know that that's not a luxury all agencies have, but some do. And we lean on our, executive level folks that have connections. We have a bunch of new political appointees. Our last CEO kind of, negotiated the conversation with Comcast. And, I believe it was a $3 million in donated ad space for our PSA. So it's a really great, that's a really great thing. But for those that don't have, high profile folks doing that outreach on your behalf, like when you create a really great piece of content and there's an important message that needs to reach people, a lot of these media companies, they will respect it and take it for what it is. So if you don't have the luxury of that, I'd say produce really great content with an important message, and you can get it out there. We've also explored other opportunities like through the Ad Council. That's a much bigger sort of process and commitment, but definitely focus on content and leveraging any networks that you have.
Awesome.
Also, I can add
go ahead,
to that. There are companies out there that they'll actually take your PSA and shop it around. So they're really designed to just do that. Just look for, places to place your PSA for free. Of course, you have to pay them for the distribution, but if you don't know anything about doing that, they're worth their weight in gold.
Awesome. Thank you, Bronwyn. So I think that's it for questions. So again, thank you so much. Thank you both for presenting here today. Really appreciate you agreeing to do this. I think it was a really awesome presentation for everyone. So Digitalgov folks, I don't know if you want to swoop in at this point and take it away from me and wrap up, or I can wrap us up.
Yeah, thanks so
There you
much, Joe, Matt, and Bronwyn. This is Gabby from the Digital.gov team. Gabby Perret, big special thank you to you as well, the Social Gov chair. And folks, my colleague Mara did put in the chat, anyone interested, please come join us for tomorrow's Social Gov session. We'll hear from someone else at the VA, the FAA, and GSA. So thanks again and great session, and talk soon.